Welcome to Colts Law. I'm Lawrence Owen, and today we're going to talk about running back stables, the rushing game, the Indianapolis Colts, and how they stack up with the rest of the NFL entering the 2020 season. Colts Jonathan Taylor spoke out about how he's approaching his role with Marlon Mack in the Indianapolis Colts. They selected Jonathan Taylor in the 2020 NFL Draft and expect him to share touches with Marlon Mack. When he joined the Colts, Taylor spoke about how he is approaching his role alongside Marlon Mack. Despite seeing, likely a split workload, Taylor told Andrew Walker of Colts.com that he wants to maximize the reps that he does receive. He said, I think it's another level of focus here. I mean, you think about in college, you're already focused. Especially when you're in your second and third year of college, you're kind of ready. You know what to expect. I mean, it's another level of focus at this level, though. I could just tell you, you don't count reps. You make the reps count. So whenever you're in, you're on. And you got to make sure you're 100%. Now, during his collegiate career at Wisconsin, Taylor didn't have that many issues with his game. That standout running back accumulated 6,581 yards from scrimmage and 55 touchdowns in just 3 seasons at Wisconsin. Over 6,000 of those yards in just 3 seasons was just rushing. That's 2,000, averaging over 2,000 yards a season. Meanwhile, he also took the advantage of every touch he got, averaging about 6.8 yards for every carry. He spoke about how he wants to make sure he's prepared when his number is called. Taylor said, think about it. You're a professional now. When people are at their jobs, like I know when my mother's at her job, she likes to do everything correctly to a T, as perfect as possible. And I'm taking the same approach here. Whenever my number is called, I want to make sure that I'm on at all times because it's my job now. Head coach Frank Reich shared his excitement on getting to feature Taylor in the offense in 2020. On the other hand, Taylor is prepared to succeed as a rookie, even sharing carries with Marlon Mack, possibly Nyheim Hines, even Jordan Wilkins. Yes, Jordan Wilkins, the running back on the Indianapolis Colts roster that disappears. You don't see him. It's funny, though, because he's that one running back in all the NFL that leads running backs in all the NFL with at least 50 carries per season in average per carry. That's right. Jordan Wilkins, the last peg in the Indianapolis Colts running back stable, leads the league in average yards per rush. And he's done it both seasons, the last 2 seasons, his rookie and his sophomore season. Led the NFL as long as you had at least 50 yards or 50 carries per season. Wow. And then you talk on that, you got Nyheim Hines, who, granted, isn't the greatest between the tackles runner, but the kid can catch out of the backfield like nobody's business. Marlon Mack, who has just got an excellent all-around ability. He can take it up the middle and lower his shoulder, gain extra yards after contact. He's proven that he could do that last season. He's improved so much. He's very good in the pass protection game. Obviously, he's got moves on top of moves. And then you slap on Taylor. Taylor, the guy who was comped coming out of college to 2 different guys, Adrian Peterson and Saquon Barkley. Those are like once generation running backs. I can't help that a once in a generation running back happen just a couple years apart from another one. But the fact of the matter is that's what he's comped as. And if you look at the film room, go check out my film room on him on YouTube, because that is exactly, I comp him to Saquon Barkley. I mean, my goodness, the kid is a beast. Even his stats, his physical size, how he carries himself, how he runs, even his build. Look at Saquon. Everyone says Saquon's going to be such a powerful runner. You could tell that just because of the size of his thighs. Guess what? Jonathan Taylor has very similar size in his thighs. He's built like that. He's built to run with power between the tackles. You're still here? Awesome! Thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoy it, please smash that like button and hit subscribe. That way, you're known when I come up with a new video here on YouTube. Don't forget to hit the notification bell. I plan on going live starting this Saturday, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Conversations, man. You want to know what we're going to have that conversations for? Right down here where it says Twitter. Type that into your web browser. Give me a follow. Everything that I talk about, anything that I am getting ready to post, any kind of video that I'm getting ready to stream or upload, you'll find out when I type that right out there on Twitter, man. Don't forget sportscaster.com. That's my actual job. That's where I work, right? I am Sportscaster NFL News. Me, Joe Nubo, Ray Rout, we discuss all sorts of stuff NFL news related every day. So don't forget, I appreciate you watching me here, but you can get a lot more information in these little links here. Don't forget, check out the description below, because at the very bottom of that description is where you can support my channel and help ensure that my content continues to be uploaded and broadcasted to you so that you know exactly what's going on in the NFL. Now let's get back to the video. Now back to what we was talking about. My question is, how does the Indianapolis Colts rushing attack for 2020 stack up against other teams in the NFL? Well, let's actually go look at the other teams in the NFL from last year. The Indianapolis Colts were 7th in the NFL last year in yards a game. 133.1 yards per game rushing, averaging 4.5 yards a carry as a team. 4.5 yards a carry as a team, not too shabby. Obviously, the workload was held down by Marlon Mack. We also had Jonathan Williams, Jordan Wilkins, Nyheim Hines running the football with him when he would go down or needed a break. Teams in front of the Indianapolis Colts, the Minnesota Vikings had 133.3. And I'm curious because I don't know if Dalvin Cook will even be running the football this year because of the amount of contract that he wants. He wants Christian McCaffrey money, or he says he will sit out the season. If I was the Minnesota Vikings, I'd let him sit out the season, even though that would definitely hurt them as a team at the running back position. On top of the fact they don't have Stephon Diggs anymore, which was that massive deep threat to go along with Thielen to take pressure off the running game. Let's move on to Dallas and Zeke. 134.6 yards per carry. Great offensive line. Very solid running back. I don't expect that team to go down so much, but it may. Why? Because they went out and got CeeDee Lamb to go with that already really good passing attack that Dak Prescott has. So, if Dak has a better passing attack, that means they might run the ball less. And if they run the ball less, that means that's a better chance for Indianapolis to supplant them in their position. Let's move on to Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks had 137.5 yards per game. That's not shabby. That's not shabby at all. And yes, I think that Seattle will probably continue that same aspect of 137. I don't think they'll move too much in that aspect because they do like to run the football, especially with Russell Wilson sitting there. It helps him with the play action to hit people downfield like Lockett, like DK Metcalf, and now Phillip Dorsett. The Tennessee Titans coming in third last season. Big Derrick Henry, 138.9 yards per carry. Now, I don't expect the Tennessee Titans to have that kind of yardage on the ground this upcoming season. Two reasons. One, I think their passing game will be more focused than what they were last year. We've seen what Ryan Tannehill could do in his 12 games as a starter after he took over for Marcus Mariota. He made A.J. Brown. I don't know if he made A.J. Brown or A.J. Brown made him, but as soon as he became the starter, those two had some kind of connection that was just outstanding. I thought A.J. was going to be a great receiver when he came into the league. I was a little upset that he went to Tennessee because I didn't think Marcus Mariota could take advantage of what he brings to the table, but apparently Ryan Tannehill can. I think that they may be a little bit more of a balanced team this year, especially considering I think that defensive coordinators and linebacker defensive line coaches across the NFL, when they're preparing for the Tennessee Titans, are not going to let what happened in the postseason happen to them. They're not going to allow their guys to try to tackle Derrick Henry high, because you've seen what happens. You see the meme of Earl Thomas just getting turned around by Derrick Henry, right? People, they're going to be coached to tackle low. They're going to be coached to tackle around the legs. Bring Derrick Henry down immediately. Don't try to fight with a guy who can take on a defensive lineman, okay? I mean, the guy is a defensive end running the football. Don't take him on that way. You hit him low, you hit him hard, you dive through his legs. I don't care if you are a lineman, you go for the hips and legs. All right, that's what you do. That's how you take care of Derrick Henry. I think most defensive coaches are going to teach their guys how to do that and to focus on doing that when they face the Tennessee Titans. The San Francisco 49ers. This is a team that I think the Colts will actually be right up near with, okay? San Francisco loves running the football. They base their game around running the football. Their offensive line, they don't want Jimmy Garoppolo having the team on his shoulders. You've seen what happened in the Super Bowl when the game is put on the line and right on top of Jimmy Garoppolo. He begins overthrowing and misthrowing players wide open on the field. Jimmy's a good, very similar. I think Jimmy Garoppolo and Ryan Tannehill are very similar players. Very high-end game managers. You don't want them to be the focus of your team. You're going to want to focus on running the football. Now, San Francisco, they lost their starting tackle. He retired, but they went out and got a Pro Bowl, all-pro tackle from the Washington Redskins to take his place. So they didn't go down on the offensive line. They still have a very solid offensive line. I think they will continue to run the football well. They had 144.1 yards a game, even though they only averaged 4.6 yards per game, or per carry as a team. I think Indianapolis will go above that this season, and I'll explain why in a moment. Now, everyone knows the number one running team in the NFL last season was the Baltimore Ravens. Was it because they had an outstanding offensive line? Well, yeah, that was part of it. That's part of it. They have a top 5 offensive line, much the same as San Francisco and Dallas and the Colts They have a very solid offensive line. Do they have outstanding running backs? Well, last year they had good running backs. They didn't have any outstanding, superb running backs on their roster. They had guys who did specific jobs in the backfield. What did this for them was the fact that they run the run option with a running quarterback. Lamar Jackson is something special, and they're going to use him a lot. But I don't think that they're going to run the ball. Being this is his third year, I think they're going to want to start to expand Lamar Jackson a little bit more. I think they're going to want him to throw the football. Well, does that mean that he's going to stop running the football? Absolutely not. I think they went out and got J.K. Dobbins, which is going to be a massive difference between him and Ingram. So they kind of have a very similar aspect, I think, to what the Colts have with Marlon Mack and Jonathan Taylor. I think Jonathan Taylor is a better Mark Ingram, and I think Marlon Mack is a better J.K. Dobbins. But here's the deal. Phillip Rivers ain't running the football. No. Don't expect him to even do quarterback sneaks. This kid that has no movement. He's great in the pocket at just moving around in the pocket and shifting his weight and kind of just avoiding the rush when he absolutely needs to. But he ain't taking off on the legs and scrambling for anything. Lamar Jackson does. I still expect Baltimore to have the top running game in the NFL. They averaged 5.5 yards a carry last season. Come on. 5.5 yards a carry. So I don't see the Colts beating Baltimore in the run game this season. But I think the Colts could legitimately be the number 2 running team in the NFL. Because, holy crap, the Colts have an outstanding offensive line. They know how to use pulling guards. They know they have 2 running backs. They could run pro formation, I formation, offset I formations. 2 running backs in the backfield. 2 running backs, a tight end, and 2 wide receivers. If the Colts run that formation a lot, out of those formations, that would give defenses fits. Because then you give an option to Rivers. Do I hand it off to Jonathan Taylor up the gut if they're not playing up close and tight against the line of scrimmage? Taylor's speed and his tackle breaking abilities. The man can turn a small hole into a 50-yard touchdown. If they do close that line together, he could fake that handoff, make them crush even more, and then pitch it to Marlon Mack, who is a master at breaking it outside and making open field plays. Being able to make, single defenders miss him out there in the open field, whether it be a stiff arm, whether it be juking them, whether it be spinning off of them, whether it be just adjusting his speed so that their trajectory at tackling him is off. Marlon has so many things that he could do to make people miss in the open field. Let's not forget, we got Jordan Wilkins as well that can back up either one of these guys. He could take it up the gut. He could take it to the outside. Now, my biggest issue with the Colts running back stable is especially with Jonathan Taylor, is the similar situation of what happened with Jordan Wilkins. Jordan Wilkins in his rookie season was doing outstanding. Looked like he was going to fight Marlon Mack for the starting position. And then he dropped the football. And then he dropped it again. 2 times. After that, completely disappeared off the face of the map. He was not allowed to carry the football anymore. Very, very, very sparingly, because he dropped the ball 2 times. And that's what's led to, so far, him only averaging 53 carries, 55 carries a season. Still averaging almost 6 yards a carry, but still getting very, very few carries. I'm afraid of Jonathan Taylor this happening to him. Jonathan Taylor in his 3 seasons had 17 fumbles. Now, the Colts have Tom Rathman. Tom Rathman is big on 2 things: holding on to the football and pass protection. And those are 2 things that Jonathan Taylor needs to learn heavy on, which is why I don't think Jonathan Taylor will be the feature workhorse back like many assume he's going to. I think they're going to ease him in with Marlon Mack, who did not fumble the football at all with over 250 carries last season, didn't drop it once. And Marlon Mack knows how to pass protect. So I do believe that Jonathan Taylor will be eased in slowly until he starts to get more of an even carry with Marlon Mack. Now let's not forget, like I said, Nyheim Hines, the kid comes in, he's that third down back, he's that scat back, he's that guy that could come out of the backfield on third down when you got 3rd and long and be able to catch a football out of the backfield and make people just look stupid. I mean stupid. Out in the open field, making a miss, just diving for mid-air, and then taking off for pretty good-sized chunks of yards. He doesn't get, I mean, he's like a $170, as a running back. So you don't want him going up the gut too much because an arm tackle will bring him down very easily. You get him a massive hole, and the kid can turn that into something special. But he's that kid, great athlete. He's kind of like a Marshall Faulk, but a little bit smaller, a little bit more thin. But that's how I kind of see him as, the style that he has. Last year, the Colts running game was actually hampered by the passing game. The Indianapolis Colts did not have a passing game last season. They had no wide receivers to throw to. None. Their number 1 wide receiver, T.Y. Hilton, he had hamstring injuries. He had ankle problems. He had foot problems. He couldn't play. It was the first time in eons he had less than 1,000 yards. He's healthy now. Paris Campbell, the rookie. A lot of people thought he was going to blow up. Hampered by injuries. Played maybe 3 games healthy. In those games that he played healthy, he looked very, very, very good. Now he's healthy. Hopefully he can stay healthy and be another weapon. Let's talk about the guy, their number 2, obviously, they had last year, no longer have him, Devin Funchess, broke a collarbone. Week 1, didn't have him the entire season. So the Colts' only top wide receiver that was a consistent threat was, at the beginning of the year, the 4th wide receiver on the depth chart in Zach Pascal. Pascal is very much like Devin Funchess, only Pascal can run block. Get where I'm going with on this? He can run block. You put him out there, he showed that he can be relied on. I expect his numbers, it may not be as high as they were last year because of the weapons that they have at wide receiver, but he can run block. Same with the rookie they picked up. Michael Pittman Jr. can run block. Big kid. And with Phillip Rivers, he's going to be more of a passing threat than what Jacoby Brissett was, which means this passing game will be more threatening because there was no threat of a passing game, and that's the only reason why I got in a little bit of depth on the wide receivers and the quarterbacks from last year. Because last year there was no threat in the passing game, teams were able to stack the box and hamper the Colts running game. Hamper them to being only 4.5 yards per carry and 133.1 yards a game. Now with a true threat passing game, they're not going to be able to stack that box. The first game they fully stack that box, you're going to see Phillip Rivers pick apart a defense. It won't happen again after that. It will not happen again after that. And you're going to have Jonathan Taylor and Marlon Mack see a lot of 6-man boxes. Can you imagine? 6, 7-man boxes for Jonathan Taylor and Marlon Mack rather than 8 or 9-man boxes like they saw a lot of, especially the second half of the season last year. Oh my gosh. I would not be surprised if on average the Colts average closer to 5 yards per carry than they did 4.5 yards per carry this season. Why? Well, it's another year for the offensive line being together, right? It'll be a second year for Mark Lewinsky there. It'll be the second year for Braden, or third year for Braden Smith, third year for Mark Lewinsky, third year for Quentin Nelson. You got Ryan Kelly, who's on a contract season. You know he's going to be fighting his butt off. And then Anthony Costanzo, the guy that came back after this really contemplating retirement, is like, you know what, I'll play another 2 seasons. And he's sitting there beside. The reason why he stayed was because of the rest of the team. Because of the rest of the offensive line who played all 16 games together. Started all 16 games last season. Only team in the NFL to do that. They have a consistency, a cohesion among that group. And they love running the football. One of the best offensive lines in football at run blocking. They're going to open up massive holes. So I fully expect the Colts to be closer to 5 yards per carry. I would not be surprised if they break 2,500 yards on the ground this year as a team. 2,500 yards. I could see both Marlon and Jonathan Taylor break 1,000. Possibly. I'm going to average them at 900 a pop, but I think 1,000 is not out of the question, especially if health stays with the passing game. And Paris Campbell and Michael Pittman Jr., as young as they are, step up and play the roles that they were drafted to play. And T.Y. Hilton can stay healthy. This is an offense that could be very, very, very dangerous. And until next time, I'm Lawrence Owen. This is Colts Law, and I want you to have a good one.
Just because a player's not a household name doesn't mean we can't make him a household name.